Get ready to find out about an exciting way to implement robotics in your classroom and change how your students view technology. Welcome to K-12 2015 Online Conference.
Welcome to K-12 Online Conference's virtually unstoppable conference. It's not exactly that the conference is unstoppable, but there's some movements going around the education circles these days and in our classrooms that are getting pretty close to being pretty darned unstoppable. One of those is the maker movement. Today we're going to be talking about robotics and where that fits into the big scheme, the big picture of the makerspace movement. It's putting learning in the hands of our students, and when we do that, a simple box of pieces and parts becomes something that can actually change the world as our kids begin to find out what to do and figure out what to do with these things and make things with them and design them to do things that will help them understand the questions that the future is going to ask of them. So come on inside with me and let's take a look at some things related to robots and how that fits into the makerspace movement. So those are the kind of robots that I grew up with. In the 1950s, science fiction author Sir Isaac Asimov wrote about the first 3 laws of robotics. And then there was a 4th law added, but essentially all 4 laws of robotics said that robots could cause no harm to any human being and that they would protect humans at the very cost of their own life. Well, in this session today, we're going to consider that there just might be time to write a 5th law of robotics, that robots should provide fun for every student who dares to approach them. So we're talking about robotics in the classroom today, and we chose to go with the Lego Mindstorm EV3 robotic systems for what our students were going to be asked to do. And there are a couple of things to keep in mind if that's the kind of choice you make. With the Lego Mindstorms, there are 2 different versions. The first of those is going to be the educational version, and it's a little bit different from the commercial or retail version that you might buy if you just went directly to Lego to buy those. One of the big differences is going to be the power system that's used for the 2 different systems. The Lego Mindstorm itself is driven by what is called a brick. And that brick is basically the computer that the students learn to program in order to manipulate the robots once they've built them. The power system in the educational version is actually, you have to use the small batteries that are going to have to be recharged, or you'll have to just replace those. The retail version that we got actually has the lithium battery that is rechargeable, and you don't have to worry about the little batteries that otherwise you'd have to come up with. Now, the end products can be kind of fantastic. The systems have a lot of built-in creativity as far as the students designing their own robots, and I want to come back to that in just a moment as I talk about what my high schoolers are doing this year. But my junior high schoolers last year stuck pretty much to the patterns that are available from Lego or online from other students who have designed them. This is one example of a robot that was built by our 8th grade students last year using all of the Lego parts that were available in the kit. There are some substantial robots that are available. The designs are kind of incredible when you stop and look at it. This is actually one of our favorites. This is the Cobra, the Viper, and the students, you'll see this in the video as well. This one cannot be built using the educational version. In fact, that's one of the big differences, is that the educational version is a little bit limited in terms of what it can build. Limited is not really the right word, though, because it's just different. The retail version has parts that are not in the educational version and vice versa, and it really, you can do some things with the education version that you can't do with the retail. For example, in the video, when you see the elephants performing tasks, the elephant robots performing tasks with the students in a few moments, that was not built with the retail version. That was actually built with the educational version. And that's kind of a nice thing to know that you can get that creative with it as well.
Now, should you choose to go with the Lego Mindstorm EV3s, I think it's important to know that Lego does a really terrific job of supporting the classroom efforts at this point with training videos, and a lot of things are online that students have access to that really make it quite easy to get started. And you can see from the video that there's a real wide variety. Programming is available on laptop and iPad. In fact, even there are apps that students can put on their cell phones that enable them to operate their robots by Bluetooth with their cell phones or the iPad, so that the programming can actually be done either on the brick itself to a limited basis. Most students are going to graduate pretty quickly to the software that's available for laptops and PCs that would actually enable them to do a lot more sophisticated programming on the screen. And as I said earlier, not every design that you're going to see here featured by Lego is available in the standard or stock kits. But depending on the kit that you do choose, you'll have a pretty wide variety of things that can actually be built. My eighth graders last year dove in pretty quickly. Job one was really to unpack and sort the kits and all the parts and pieces that came with it, and to inventory those and become acquainted with exactly what they had in front of them. They were able to access online manuals with instructions for building individual robots, so we didn't have a lot of paper usage. It was pretty easy not to have to print out manuals because sometimes those manuals were maybe even more than 100 pages long if you'd actually printed them out. My students used laptops to access both the manuals and the software that was necessary for programming their creations eventually. My students worked in teams of three. And I took on kind of the role of facilitator with this project. Wanted them to have the fun and to be able to experience the thrill of accomplishment that came from getting something to work the way that they knew that it was supposed to. And they really enjoyed their role, which was as primary learners on the project. And I became kind of a learner alongside them. But we got to see some pretty fantastic results with what they were able to do, working about 2 hours a week during class time, and to be able to put together the robots and program them to be able to do a series of tasks that I prescribed that they would eventually have to do in a competitive situation. Now, you may notice here that we're not in a conventional classroom setting. I was able to secure the use of my school library for my first two class periods, which were my eighth grade units that were actually participating with the robotics last year. And so we had plenty of room to spread out. Now, one of the things that working on the floor helped a lot, because safety became kind of an issue once these robots became very mobile. Working with them on tabletops sometimes got kind of risky as the robot would take off and roll off the table. There are a lot of situations where schools and campuses, programs that I've seen, have wooden frames that have been built for the tables in order to keep the robots and the parts and pieces from falling to the floor. But we didn't have access to that and did not do that. And the floor became a real friend once the students began to put their robots together. And they really just enjoyed the experience of being able to program and use Bluetooth to actually communicate with their robots and to get the robots to perform as the manual said that they actually should be able to perform.
What I mostly enjoyed about building our robot is the trunk, because it's difficult, but at the same time it's not, and you get to experience different stuff with it. And so now we're just trying to make it do what it's supposed to do, basically. So, yeah.
Well, our biggest challenge that our group has made is when we put the pieces together and then they don't work how they're supposed to be. So we try to look at the other groups and compare them. So just try to solve it and see how they are supposed to be built.
Now, one important element that we built into our robotics unit was the idea of community service. I wanted our eighth graders to have an opportunity to visit local elementary school and talk with the fifth grade science students there about what they had learned with their robotics. And they really had a wonderful day there with the fifth graders, able to share and communicate with them about the excitement of the robots and to demonstrate what they had done. And the fifth graders really seemed to enjoy that. The ultimate outcome that we had hoped to achieve was that they would actually be able to stage a competitive event in front of our student body on our campus at the end of the unit. And so the teams of 3 students each were required to produce their robot and present to me ahead of time a script that they would follow with the robot, and then they were judged based on how well that robot performed what was in the script. And some teams did better than others. It was a very huge learning experience for all of us, but they did perform in front of their peers, which was a very authentic audience situation for them. And as you can see in the video here, some things went pretty well, and some things were a real test of their patience and their composure in a very difficult situation. I want to come back now and introduce you to some students from that elementary school a year later, where they have formed a competitive robots team and will be competing in the first Lego League competition in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
I joined the robotics team because I thought it would be fun to interact with other people to build and accomplish one project. I'm excited about the tournaments that we'll be in and how we will tell each other like where to put the robot and how to compete in the tournament. We were really excited, and then when we got to build a course set, we added all the additional ones, and then on me and my group programmed our first program to pick up a block and move it to a different place.
I decided to get on the robotics team because I really like making Legos and working with technology, let's say. You can make a lot of stuff with robots. Like if you can make robots do things for you. Like maybe in the future there's going to be like robots ruling the world, or let's say. There could be a lot of things going to happen in the future. What I'm looking forward to the most is like the track where you make the robot go on. It'll be turning and it's fun to program it. It can you can make it do almost anything, but you gotta know how to program it to do that. Last week I made it do math and rounding, and I made it beep twice. It may be a little hard if you don't watch the videos, but there's little videos that you click on the robotics website, and it would show you how to program it. It kind of would take long because videos are pretty long, but you have to listen to all of them for it to work. When I programmed it to do math, I was thinking it would speak maybe, but I'm not 100% sure it would work. I was probably 70% sure. Maybe it would speak, or maybe it would show it on the screen of the robot, because the robot has a little screen that you would make it do stuff. You could either program it on the computer or on the robot with the controls. It would tell you how to do it. Well, of the math thing, I'm thinking it would show the problem and then solve it. And then it would say it maybe. Or maybe it'll use math to know where to go. So you can use math to go everywhere. So you could use math as one of the selections to use it. Go all around the track.
Now here at our 9th grade campus this year, we're actually a club instead of a class. And so our structure is going to be a little bit different. Frankly, we're still kind of working on that as far as how the structure is how the program is going to be affected by the structure. But one of the things that I know that's going to be different is that we're going to be able to provide the students with an extra option, partly because they're ninth graders and they're just a little bit older. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to have an open division in our club where the students can actually build robots from parts, which really fits into the whole makerspace model a little more than just the EV3s do. This is all kind of made, but then the students are still creating with the parts that Lego provides. In this open division that we intend to have, students are going to have the option of building robots from parts of other mechanical things. And they may choose to include the Lego brick as a drive component or a programmable unit to actually drive their robot, but they're going to be able to add other parts from other pieces of equipment. On the other hand, the other division will be students who use only the Lego parts themselves from the EV3s, and they build robots exclusively using those Lego parts.
Now, at the high school where I'm teaching this year, we're actually going to have a 9th and 10th grade club, but this thing really began for us with the efforts of 3 particular students who just simply had a passion for tearing things apart and putting them back together. And they literally begged to have a robotics club last year at the end of the year. And so when I started on the campus this year, it was a very natural thing for me to bring what experiences I had last year in 8th grade to my new position at the high school with the 9th and 10th graders. And they're really kind of excited about the opportunity to learn and at the same time be able to do what they love to do, which is to tear things apart and put them back together.
What I like about robotics is that we actually get to make stuff. Sure, we're not like experts at doing what we do, but it's a fun experience in what we get to take part in. So it's just having fun while learning at the same time.
Didn't know anything. They had to create something beautiful and creating cars and airplanes out of no knowledge of what they were doing. That's pretty much like robotics. Like we're learning out of the blues
as we go.
Yeah, and just putting things together.
I see it the same way as y'all too. Also see it as like learning with friends and having fun with them as well.
Clearly, robotics has a place in the makerspace movement. With robotics, there are so many different ways to approach it and so many different things that can be done with it that it really does span the age groups, whether you're in elementary or junior high, middle school, or even high school. So many opportunities for students to use their critical thinking and analytical skills to make decisions about something that's just totally fun and that they really enjoy working together and learning together about those things. I hope you've enjoyed this session of K-12 Online's conference and robotics in the makerspace strand, and that if you have an interest in robotics, that you'll certainly have enough information here to look in the right direction and get something going on your campus with your students. And I hope you enjoy the entire K-12 online conference lineup and that you'll return to a different session the next time you have an opportunity.